The following podcast is a part of RadioMisfits.com.
Previously on Carol's Last Christmas.
I'm for sure his biological daughter. I mean, you could see the resemblance.
A surprise family connection to a man who may have been involved in Carol's murder.
Isn't there something with my DNA that could help? Well, then you're going to look at the sketch and then you're going to be like, whoa.
Does the timeline fit?
But I'm sure that my brother was in Florida because he lived there most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Do the pieces fit?
I kind of think that she thought he'd done it, but they come down there and they was looking for him or something. And I did see that picture and I was like, man, that really looks like him, you know.
I mean, you could tell the kind of temper the guy had and the kind of lack of self-control. Would he be capable?
Yes.
And a podcast listener calls with a long missing piece of the puzzle.
He had it on the desk, and he told us that it was the railroad tie that killed a young female ISU student in 1975.
From Genuine Human Productions, this is Carol's Last Christmas. Chapter 11. I'll take a polygraph today.
We have chosen to omit names or use sound effects in this production because the individuals discussed have not been formally arrested, charged, or accused of wrongdoing in the death of Carol Rofstad.
After investigating and interviewing for 2 years, surely listeners would help fill in some of the blanks that had us scratching our heads.
I'm like nervous now. I'm like nervous.
Our listeners did not disappoint.
I mean, there's a car here. I wonder if the doorbell doesn't work.
A former ISU criminal justice major had shared the name of her professor, the man who at one time had the murder weapon in this case. Now, Allie and a new colleague, Nicole, were at his door.
Hello. Does a Frank Morin live here?
Yeah.
Was he a professor at ISU?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm wondering is he home?
Yeah, he is.
Could I speak to him maybe?
And why do you want to speak to him?
So I have a podcast. It's called Carol's Last Christmas, and it's about the murder of Carol Rofstad. And we were told through our investigation that he had the murder weapon in his classroom at one point.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if he knows anything about that. I'd love to ask him a few questions if he's home.
Yeah, I definitely ask him.
Okay.
His wife answered the door, and she had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. She was like, oh my gosh, an unsolved case? Like, what? The murder weapon? Oh my gosh, let me go get Frank. So she goes back there to get Frank, and he invites us in. We're sitting down.
Please sit down.
Hey.
What can I do for you?
It's very nice to meet you. My name is Allie.
Allie?
I'm a freelance journalist.
Yeah?
Hi, I'm Nicole. This is my friend Nicole.
Sit, please.
Thank you.
Keeping in mind, I've been retired for over 12 years.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with the podcast Carol's Last Christmas.
No, I am not.
Okay. Well, an article was published in the Polygraph a couple weeks ago about the murder of Carol Rofstad in 1975. And we've created a podcast, and we've thoroughly investigated the case for 2.5 years. I'm wondering if I could ask you a few questions about it.
You can, but to be honest with you, it doesn't register in my memory.
Really?
I came about 10 years, apparently after this case, and I taught until 2012.
The student who we spoke to said that she saw the murder weapon of Carol Rofstad. It was a piece of wood, and it was in the classroom when they were teaching there.
Now, I don't recall that. I mean, I recall I had several items.
Okay.
That I had borrowed from a friend in the police department to just use as exhibits for a class. I think that section of the class was called physical evidence. And I do remember there was a piece of wood. I don't recall ever identifying it to the class as the murder weapon of the young woman, but I do remember the wood.
The wood. Was there blood on it?
Yes.
Our student has a different recollection. She remembers thinking, why would police let this go?
When I saw the blood stain still on it, I couldn't believe it because, that was at the beginning of DNA, and I just didn't understand why, as a cold case, or even, that they claim was still open, here they are, floating evidence around that could have been preserved until technology caught up. Here we are in class learning about the chain of custody when it comes to collecting evidence, and this was an unsolved case.
Who was the friend that gave it to you?
I don't recall. He's long retired, but he was a normal police officer.
He was a normal police officer.
I had a lot of relationships because of the course with Normal and Bloomington police officers. And this was just one who might have been an investigator there that I struck up a conversation about how I was teaching this class, and it'd be interesting if and it was strictly borrowed. I mean, I gave them all back to
the same person?
I don't know if it was the same person, but to the Normal police.
Okay.
And so if it still exists, it's in some sort of...
So you returned it? You don't have it anymore?
Oh, no.
Okay.
It wouldn't be proper for me to keep it. Yeah.
He had absolutely no knowledge that it was from an open case. He was always under the assumption that it was a closed case, and he never knew which cases they were. It was always these were used in previous homicide closed cases.
What kinds of other items did you show in class?
I had a machete. I had a couple of disabled firearms. Actually, there was even, those long bars that you have for lifting weights.
Yeah.
Weights on you.
Right.
I had something like that. I mean, it was just a sundry things that the officer said, these are all pieces of evidence we have had from past crimes.
Did they mention if they were closed or open cases?
No.
They didn't say?
No. I mean, we're talking now, 30 years?
47 years.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And it's
still
from
unsolved. The crime, but I mean, when I had possession.
Oh, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That case was never solved, is that correct?
No.
And she was killed with a beam of wood?
A piece of wood. She was hit over the head with what they call it a railroad tie, but...
this wasn't a railroad tie.
There's no way it could have been a railroad tie. Those are huge,
This is more like I don't want to say 2x4.
Right.
But it was bigger, slightly bigger than 2x4.
Was it jagged? Did it have...
actually it was pretty squared off.
Kind of like a fireplace
like it
log.
had been out of a lumber yard or something.
Right. Okay. Did you ever ask your friend or any of the police officers if this was violating any sort of chain of custody thing to show them?
No, I had just assumed that the cases were closed.
Right. And that.
Yeah, so I never.
They never
I
said anything about
strictly was
that.
concerned pedagogy. Just, I just wanted to show students the wide variety of things that don't appear.
Right.
I mean, what made the piece of lumber so interesting is that one would not think of it as a weapon. You think of a gun or things of that nature.
Right.
I just wanted to illustrate that so many different common things could be
used as a weapon. We don't know where the piece of wood is now.
Well, I would think it's
locked up in evidence, right?
I would think in a normal police.
Right.
If it's an open case, it should be in, I don't know if the normal police is big enough to have an evidence closet or evidence room.
Yeah.
But I would think an open case, it would still be there.
Right.
I mean, I'm almost positive it's got to be.
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, a murder, there's no statute of limitations.
Right.
Officials assure us that the blood-stained wood is back in police custody now, along with another rather morbid exhibit, the skull of a murdered young man that somehow made its way into public display.
And it came out that had taken place along with the kid's skull.
Right.
And that the heat was on, and they were told to return. They were told to return the weapon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Coming up, the power of publicity and social media. It's shaken up some local activists.
It just seems like we really have an issue here in McLean County with cases not being solved, people being wrongly convicted, which means those cases still aren't solved, and a complete lack of transparency with our elected officials and the police department.
And when our podcast hits the front page, we may have found a new witness.
I would be glad to take a polygraph on everything I've told you, because I ain't lying about it. I didn't hit that girl, but I seen it happen, he says.
Presented with little or no interruption, Carol's Last Christmas has been an expensive endeavor. If you appreciate our work, please consider making a donation to help. Thanks for supporting Carol and our work.
Visit patreon.com/Carol's Last Christmas.
There's no telling how many cold cases have been put to rest by deathbed confessions, or the classic guilty conscience. When we first began talking to Carol's ISU friends, some had lost hope.
When the murder weapon's been contaminated like that, it's compromised, that's when I knew it would never be solved.
But others suspected somehow, somewhere, someone would come forward.
Somebody, like the confession tells somebody I got away with murder. The only other thing that may happen is that somebody saying, I just can't live with myself anymore. I've got to tell you what he told me, and somebody comes forward like that. And I think there's a chance of that.
Hello?
Hello.
On January 15th, 2023, readers of the Sunday Panagraph woke to a front-page picture of Carol Rofstad.
Yes, I just read that article. I'd be glad to talk to anyone about it, because it's weighed on me.
Okay.
Forever.
Well, why don't we start from the beginning? How old are you? Were you an ISU student? Give me some background.
There was one man who read about this podcast and felt he had to speak out.
I do not like the police, especially the normal police. They are some rotten sons of bitches. So that's the main reason I never went forward with them.
He got in touch with the paper, but said he only wanted to talk to us.
There was hardly no coverage on it after the initial killing. I kept saying, well, now I'll see the right article come along. Maybe they'll put this girl's parents' names, and I can write them a letter or something. But none of that happened.
Right.
So and then I hated myself for setting up because of so many of these crime programs on TV anymore. And you see where the parents just, they waste away wanting to know who killed their child. It made me feel so bad. And then I said I would talk to close friends about it. Well, I don't know what I would do in that case either, John.
Every member of our team interviewed this man. We talked to him over the phone and in person. His story never wavered.
I'd like to make this statement.
Okay.
I won't feel slighted or mad at all if you say, John, we'd like to polygraph you on that. Because anything I say to you, I'm willing to polygraph it to you. I'm not going to lie about any of this.
No,
I've lived with it too long.
It started with a bad ice storm.
The worst winter anyone can remember. There'll be another ice storm in Illinois.
I'd say right now, probably 250, 300,000 people that are totally without power.
In Chicago, skyscrapers shedding ice and people ducking for cover.
Look out, pal.
I believe it was a Sunday morning because I was home.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Tom at my door. Oh, come in, Tom. What are you up to? Oh, nothing, man. I was in this neighborhood, so I decided to stop in and see you. I said, what do you think about all this ice storm we had, man? Killer, right? Yeah. He says, I said, well, my neighbor's house just across the street here, his front door got kicked in, and somebody went in there and stole some shit. Really? He says, well, I know who did that. That was he did that. He's been wilding lately. I hadn't heard that term until years later. Mm-hmm. New York City, Central Park. I heard the term wilding again. I'd first heard it way back then. He continued to talk about it. And he says, yeah. He says, you know that girl over at ISU? I said, all right, they got $10,000. Mm-hmm. Well, he says, that one got killed. What about her, Tom? He said that. I said, he did it. He did, John. I was with him. I said, oh, what is this? And he says, I said, how'd he kill her, Tom? Well, he says, I don't know. He says, there's a limb or a club off the tree or a piece of wood. He says, I don't know what. He says, I know it wouldn't. And he says, I know beat her with it really bad. I said, how would you know that, Tom? I was there. He said, I seen it happen. He said, I didn't help. I didn't hit that girl. But I seen it happen, he says. And just went crazy on this girl, beating her with this. So I said, wow, man, that's really strange, eh? Yeah. He said, now don't tell nobody. Why would I tell anybody, Tom? You know, actually, why would I? And so he left. I actually didn't see him for a couple of years till he was moved down to Florida. And I went down there a couple of times, him, me, and another buddy, and moved to Tennessee. I just thought, well, I'll just sit on this a while. They weren't friends of mine.
Right.
They were associates.
Right.
Never heard nothing else about it. And then first thing I know, well, one of the articles came out and was the normal police suspected a local man who had checked into a mental hospital in Minnesota. And anything I read then, they're still working on that suspect from Minnesota. I'm thinking, And I was at the pool there one night, and somebody said about had moved to Minnesota. And there was no way for me to check. No reason for me to check, actually. Mm-hmm. Other than just another human was murdered.
Right.
And that was another good reason not to go with goddamn cops. Mm-hmm. They weren't going to chase down to Florida and talk to Tom, or Tennessee and talk to... Not when John lived right here.
Yeah.
And I was not going to be that person they bugged and dogged to death trying to get a confession, you know? Mm-hmm. Now, come on, John, you just know too much about this crime. You know, I know how cops operate.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to put myself in that position. No. And especially since I had nothing to do with it, I can guarantee you that.
He may have had nothing to do with Carol's death, but John did see Tom and through the years.
One day, Tom called me. He says, let's go down to Tennessee. So he starts talking about, he says, on this whole mountaintop. He says, got a nice place. He says, and it's going to be a 4th of July celebration. So I didn't have nothing to do. I said, okay, I got a long weekend here. So we jumped in my car and we went down to Tennessee. He had about 100 different folks at this party.
What year was this?
No, I just know it was the 4th of July because I got a ticket coming back. I think it was the second day, and I woke up.
How many days were you down there?
3 or 2.5. Everybody sitting around at night, of course, partying, smoking dope, and what have you. It's cool. So I take in, wake up the next morning at 5 o'clock. We do that for years. That's what time you wake up, whether you're in Tennessee or normal. So I woke up and seen him sitting up on this little hill. We sat there and talking about this and that. Now, at this time, I don't know if Tom is told or not that he spilled his guts to me. I'm hoping he didn't, you know, because at this time, I know he was a killer. So we're sitting there and pretty soon says, Johnny, he always called me Johnny for some reason. He said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, sure, man, what is it? He says, you see that great big cooler down there under that tree? There's a big Budweiser cooler, probably held 10 cases of beer at least. He says, I'm going to cut Tom up in little tiny pieces and put him in that cooler. He says, and I need you to take him out of here when you go back.
And do what with him?
He didn't I guess.
He didn't say.
I guess he was just expecting. I know what I'd have done if I'd been fool enough to do it. You know, I'd jumping along the goddamn highway somewhere. I took the cooler with me. I'd put the remains out. I said, I don't know. I said, let me think about that. He said, I really need you to do it for me. About that time, he had one son with his wife, his newest wife there. He's about 10. He comes down and says, Dad, Mom wants you. There's something wrong with the toilet. You know, this toilet was plugged up 7 days from hell. Yeah. All these people. So he said, now you think about that, Johnny. I said, okay, I will. Within 12 hours, me and Tom was in my car getting out of there. Now, I never told Tom, hey, Tom, I may have just saved your life.
Right. You never told him that.
No.
Yeah. Why do you think he asked you that?
I think he just wanted to get rid of the witness, and that was Tom. You know, there wasn't a gaggle of people out there watching him kill that little girl.
Right.
Just Tom. But I didn't linger around there for another 3 or 4 days, let me tell you that.
Is Tom still alive?
Well, that's one of the reasons I decided to say something finally. Because I talked to another friend who knows Tom and I both. And he says, your friend Tom won't be calling you from Florida in the middle of the night no more. I said, what do you mean? He just ate up with Alzheimer's, he said. My friend says, well, I went to see Tom anyway, tried to visit him. He says he didn't know who I was.
Over the course of this investigation, we've talked about 3 suspects. The disgraced student leader who knew too much, whose wife reported her suspicions when he came home covered with blood, and who may have killed Carol and wanted his only witness dead. We decided to meet again as a team over breakfast to compare notes.
I'm just going to say, we had the motive. We have somebody that says that we admitted having done it and had blood all over him and lived 50 feet away. So, where are we going with this? We have somebody that's willing to walk into a courtroom, raise their right hand, and say that we confessed to this. That's hearsay evidence. He said, she said, he said. But let's go back to the state's attorney. I would go to her and say, your office effed up by not granting immunity. It's in the frickin' police report that he said, you grant me immunity and I'll tell you everything you need to know about this. Talk to him and say, this whole case is being reinvestigated. Grant him immunity. Throw this guy a bone and tell him you'll turn it around and make him a good frickin' Samaritan. That after all these years, that he felt bad, he wanted to come clean. I've said this to you guys 50 times since we started this. With what we know about this thing, and it's more and more and more, in Cook County, Illinois, they would charge these people with murder circumstantially and then leave it up to a jury to believe if A leads to B and B leads to C and so on. That's why we're getting convictions today without even a body. You know? The preponderance of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt is that this guy had the motive. This is a connection between the three guys. They're 50 feet away. She knew that she was being watched. She had already been attacked. Circumstantially, this isn't a pipe dream theory. That these are all connecting dots.
Next time on Carol's Last Christmas. With all this new information, we're losing people, time, and memory.
Well, that's one of the reasons I decided to say something finally. He's ate up with Alzheimer's, he said.
What can be done? What should be done?
If what they're trying to do is link the three of these characters together, all they have to do is follow the action in terms of what I just got through writing, and it's all in their face.
And will police and prosecutors pick up the ball?
The stonewalling you guys are getting by the normal police department. When they actually came out and said that they weren't going to help because it was an open case, I thought that was pretty disrespectful in a sense that, well, if it's an open case, then why are you guys not investigating it?
Carol's Last Christmas is a genuine human production, reported from interviews with friends, family, and experts, and based on official records obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. Lead investigator George Seibel, Chicago Police Department, retired. Investigator and co-producer Alexandra Duskalopoulos. Investigator, writer, and narrator Demetria Kaladimos. Voiceover recreation Justin Holder. Audio mastering and consultation by Paul Gibson. Music provided rights-free by Artlist, Blue Dot Sessions, Motion Array, and Storyblocks. Original music by Verlin Thompson. Graphics by Orlando Rodriguez and Thalia Kaladimos. Website and promotional material, Thalia Kaladimos and Jim Champus. Our theme song is Criminal by Binge Herd, featuring Katrina Stone, courtesy of Artlist. Carol's Last Christmas is distributed by Radio Misfits. Our sincere thanks to the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press for pre-publication review, and to those who knew and loved Carol and generously shared their stories.